Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I am passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you were meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. I hope wherever this finds you, you are having a great day so far, great start to your day. I'm excited to be here with you, my executive co-host, Matt Aruda.
What's up?
I feel like it's been a hot minute since we did an episode together, so it's nice to have you.
Happy to be back in the saddle.
Yeah, and today's episode has been very much inspired, I think, with a lot of moving parts of our life together, individually, and the content that we also choose to consume that is very positive, very much focused on that growth mindset and how can we move the needle forward in life and in business.
That's right. And I think that a lot of these things we're going to talk about today aren't necessarily things that are aha moments in the way of us being the first ones to come up with it or to say them out loud. But what it is are really great ways to drop in and remind yourself of these things that do help to move the needle forward in all aspects of one's life, personally, financially, professionally. I think recognition of these things, coming back to check on these things are going to be important.
Yeah, and I've been having this conversation a lot actually in the gym about the sort of the tagline, if you will, about putting the reps in and how you can apply that in so many different areas. Like, I'll have this conversation with my personal training clients and we are literally putting the reps in, or they are putting the reps in. I am encouraging them to put the reps in, but we use that tagline a lot in life when it comes to business and putting the reps in, whether it is listening to great podcasts, reading amazing books that are going to expand your mind and help you grow your business, but also putting the reps in like how you do business, that it's not always roses. Sometimes you got thorns in there, a lot of thorns, some roses, and that's life. So that putting the reps in, I think it's just such a neat way to think about it and how you can apply it into so many areas and categories. And that's something that we kind of even just dialogued and riffed on before we hit record when coming up with today's topics.
Yeah, and today's topic has been heavily influenced by a podcast that we've been listening to. Actually, listened to it like 3 times.
It's so good.
Which is a testament to how impactful I think it is in unpacking a lot of it along the way. But it's from Ed Mylett, who breaks down things that he wish he knew sooner, things that he wish he implemented sooner. And he goes down a long list, longer than what I think we've got here. Quite frankly, his show is a lot longer than ours.
And he has a lot more experience in life and business than us.
Quite a bit of experience. Not to say that any of that stuff that he spoke about wasn't necessarily what we're talking about, but what it boils down to is 8 things that we either individually or together wish we knew earlier, wish we were able to implement sooner in our lives. And none of this is to say that these things aren't things that we haven't implemented up to this point, that we didn't implement, within the last 10 years or so, but we wish we implemented them 20 years ago in some capacity. And I think it would make an impactful difference to everything and anything that we do. So hopefully, no matter how old you are in listening to this, 20 something, 30 something, 40 something, 50 something, or whatever beyond 60, 70, 80, whatever it is, that these things are still helpful. They always will be helpful. So off we go.
Yeah. And I just wanted to sidebar that. I know you kind of touched on the ages, but in this episode that Ed Mylett shared, I think he originally created the content or that episode to really speak to the younger generation.
Yes.
And I love that. I'm not the younger generation. I'm 38 years old, but I can see it with my own eyes of what has changed since I was young, in my teens and my 20s, and how different that is now. And I think that, we'll link that episode in the show notes because it was really great. And again, Matt said we listened to it like 3 times already, and it has inspired this episode that we want to share with you today. And so that's what I kind of wanted to bring some attention to, is how it's really like that younger generation, but also for all of us.
Yeah.
We can all be students and we can always learn. So, number one, let's start with number one of 8. Work harder than your competition. Everyone at the top of your craft is smart. The difference makers are the ones that work the hardest. And we see and feel that a lot. We try to emulate that. You know, I've been in that season kind of just the last few weeks even, where I'm cool to be grinding and working hard. And it doesn't matter that, you know, I own one half of our ownership of the business, that I'm inspired to dive in and inspired to move, roll up my sleeves, get dirty, and like I'm not afraid of hard work. I never have been.
Yeah, and I think that has been a real game changer for, you know, the trajectory of our business in the short term here. That, you know, you're a very smart person. I consider myself an intelligent person. We make very conscientious decisions about things. So the aptitude for business and the ability to work smart, not hard, is there. But when push comes to shove, the best people at all of their individual crafts are already the smartest in their zone of geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to separate them from being better than anybody else in their craft is how many reps they're willing to put in order to separate themselves from the other equally smart people that are already neck and neck with them in the same industry.
And there's absolutely time and place to, you know, work smarter, not harder. But don't be fooled by that saying. Like, you can't outsmart hard work. Like, you still do need to do hard work.
There are only so many shortcuts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to touch on that a little bit later in a different number. But number two,
be willing to take less money so that you can have more access to the people, networks, and knowledge that you're looking for.
Ooh,
that's a big one.
That is a big one.
I think when we were all in our, you know, late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, the only thing that drives any of us, and I'm guilty of it too, certainly in my early to mid 20s, the only thing that drove the bus for what I was looking for in my career moving forward, what was going to be my future career at that stage, was first and foremost, how much can I make?
Yeah.
And very, very quickly, once you get into that, whatever industry it is, what you realize is that there is an absolute parallel with the level of service you give and how much money you make. And there was no coincidence that the more I was able to serve at a high level, the more money I was able to make. It's not a coincidence. And I saw that with all of my peers, all of my colleagues. In fact, it's probably where I learned it from. It, you know, walking in at 24 years old into that industry and seeing all the people that might have 5-10 years on me that did very well, were doing very well, and still young at that stage, late 20s, early mid 30s, and they were doing extremely well. And it was for nothing other than knowing that the service game goes a long, long way to get there. But I think the bigger point here is you cannot pay enough money to be surrounded by wonderful people, by great people that are going to take you to the next level that much sooner. You want to talk shortcuts? That's your shortcut. Take one step back to be able to take 5 steps forward. And that's what this comes down to. But you've got to have the ability to recognize it early. Hence the topic of our podcast today. Things I wish I knew earlier, because the ability for it to send you into a completely different stratosphere is only recognized after you've walked that mile or walked those 2 miles and realized, well, shit, this is the trick. I just need to be able to put myself in a place where I can learn things quicker versus taking the years and making the mistakes and spending the money to do it on my own.
You said it so well. I mean, I think this is maybe even a little area where we can add the power of having a mentor, or mentors. Absolutely. Like you can have more than one, and you can have some that maybe you invest a hefty amount with and you have that one-on-one time. But I have mentors and they don't even know they're my mentors because I just listen to them in my ears and I trust them and what they have to say and the walks that they've walked and the lessons that they've learned. And I trust them. I'm excited to hear from them and learn from them. And so having those mentors, whether you know them or not, are a great little nugget here to add in.
Yeah, I mean, that Chinese proverb that Ed Mylett dropped in this podcast was, the best way to know where you're going is to ask the people on their way back. Mm-hmm. If they've been there before you, that's all of the advantage you need to make sure that you get there yourself and to do so as efficiently, as quickly as possible.
And it's okay to ask for help. I feel like it is very easy, and maybe this is a result of social media being the scale in which it is in our lives and business now. It is absolutely okay to ask for help. We can't learn and know everything and be able to do everything effortlessly. It is totally okay to ask for help and being able to lean on people in your network. So everything that Matt said in this point number 2 of having this power of network and people and ask for help and support when and where you need it.
Absolutely.
All right. Number 3, have some understanding of money. You don't need to be Susie Orman or Warren Buffett, but understand the power of saving, investing, and
compound interest.
Yeah. And you have great tools. Like, these are classic books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. Those are classics. They're not the cutest and sexiest books to have on your shelf, but they are like money mindset Bibles. And being able to just have those books in your little toolkit of books and reference, go back to them, read them every few years, and have an understanding and just like a moderate interest in money. I feel like I can speak about this passionately because I have grown into this season of my life. I used to not have a great relationship with money, and I've actually said to you I want to do a solo episode on that, because me and money weren't always best friends. But now I get excited to have those conversations just at home, whether it's focusing on our business, our investment portfolio. It's awesome to feel excited about those conversations. And I am not Warren Buffett. Wouldn't hurt to be him, wouldn't mind, but I am not him, and I never will be. But I at least have a little bit of interest in and excitement around, and a little baby passion for it. So that's a great addition that I wish I did know that sooner. And my dad always encouraged me to have a better relationship with money, and thank God I finally did. But I wish I learned from him sooner and took his advice and grew in it to myself sooner.
There's a bit of a happy medium between being young and putting all your money away, storing it all away like a squirrel, and not experiencing life. That's not what I think we're saying here.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a balance. We're true believers of we all work for something, or many things, or people. We all work for people, whether it's your families, your parents, whatever it is, whatever you might be looking after per se. But the point is that without some fundamental understanding of what money can do for you, how it can be an absolute game changer and have the ability to work with you versus feeling like it's an anchor of yours, it changes everything for you. I mean, compound interest is, I've heard people refer to it as a wonder of the world, because that's how impactful it can be given the amount of time, obviously, and the patience required to get there. That is almost an entirely different podcast in and of itself, with the whole idea of instant gratification being so prevalent in our world. Yes, absolutely. But
like the keeping up with the Joneses mentality.
Oh, that's coming. That's coming. But ultimately, the idea of saving money and the ability of understanding how that saved money could then work for you. And it doesn't need to be something as large as investing it into rental units or properties, maybe not initially at least, but understanding that the ability of money's, or the strength of money's ability to help you along, it goes a long way. And if you didn't grow up in a household that spoke about this easily or often, there are still remarkable resources that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
Simple books that have stood the test of time. Think and Grow Rich.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I mean,
The Wealthy Barber.
The Wealthy Barber. My God. I remember reading that when I was like 14 years old. And, it's not a sexy book, but don't tell me that doesn't automatically remap your DNA and your synapses when you do think about money moving forward at that point. It's all helpful. So 100%, whenever you can, get comfortable with money.
And get excited about it, because like having money allows you to do more
and help more
people. Like, money is not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing. And having more of it is also a beautiful thing. So having these lovely positive conversations and having a positive relationship with money. I actually remember years ago in the world of network marketing, back when like I would be mailed checks versus having direct deposit for my payments. I would celebrate. Someone encouraged me to celebrate that check that would arrive every week. And that would just start to create this beautiful energy with that envelope and what was inside of it that I would receive every Friday as a result of my hard work. And so being able to just kind of baby steps, and maybe you work for somebody and you're paid every week, every 2 weeks, and celebrating that. And not thinking like, oh, I wish it was more, or it's not enough. But have put your hard work in, you've received compensation for it, and then you can celebrate that and just have those baby steps to create this beautiful relationship with money.
Yeah.
That's a great roll into number 4.
Number 4, live below your means. This is sometimes easier said than done in the world of keeping up with the Joneses. I know that the instant gratification that exists with everything surrounding us, with either what's online, social media, television. Mercy. I remember when I was like 10 years old, I'd see somebody in a 3 Series BMW and honest to God think to myself, that guy has to be like loaded. And now I see 3 Series BMWs on every high school parking lot, for goodness sake, as if they are starter cars.
Oh, no.
So my point is that the ability to be bombarded with these things is always there, but the idea of spending below your means is one of the things that keeps you ahead, gets you ahead, and keeps you ahead, to ensure that you're always in a place of abundance and being able to be as selfless and by extension as generous as possible thereafter. If you are going to spend large chunks of money when you're young, my recommendation, again, coming from someone who is 40 years old, my recommendation would be to spend those things on assets, not on liabilities. And if possible, spend them on cash producing assets.
Can you give us an example?
Case. Absolutely. Find a couple of buddies and put in a minimum down payment on a cheap home, cheap condo, whatever that might look like, more to the extent where all it needs to do is cover the rent of what your mortgage payment is. You're not looking to make money on that per month. In fact, you'll never get rich off of what you're going to make per month from a rental payment back to you versus what you have still owing in a mortgage on that. Where you get the most amount of growth is in the market appreciation of that asset in the course of 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I know this from personal experience where I had worked hard enough in my early to mid 20s and ultimately had enough down payment to purchase a couple of rental units in my late 20s. And when I flipped those for good reason in my early 30s to then fund another project of mine, the return on that was much more significant than what it would have been had I just taken that money and put it aside in a TFSA for those handful of years that I otherwise put it in this cash producing asset. I also know people who do things like Turo. Turo has only been available in Canada for what, a year? It's been in the States for maybe 5 or 6 years. It allows you to rent your car out like Uber, essentially, or an Airbnb for your car. So ultimately, you've got this car that might be sitting in your driveway if you're going to go on vacation for a week, 2 weeks. Rent the bloody thing out. Make yourself a few $100. It sounds trivial, but you do these kinds of things. You have this kind of mentality with what you're purchasing and why you're purchasing it. All you're doing is remapping the DNA to find ways to attract money to you moving forward from there.
Ooh, I actually feel so fired up. And that's one of the things, just going back to, point number 3 about the relationship with money. I love when you and I have these conversations at home, out to dinner. I think it's really, there's so much area of opportunity to be excited, and area of opportunity to create more wealth in your wealth portfolio for you, the people that you love, your family, and what that means from a long-term standpoint.
One other thing, the idea of you not keeping up with other people, it's a powerful one. I know it's tempting, but it's powerful. But you can't possibly be expected to have the exact same things as other people that are around you when your paths to get to where you guys are individually have been so remarkably different.
So true.
Not just that, the amount of time you've been on those paths are typically very different. How can you typically have a 30-year-old who maybe has been working for themselves or working in an industry for a handful of years be able to realistically expect that they can afford to do the same things as a professional who is 15 or 20 years older than they are, with that kind of runway behind them to accumulate the kind of money or wealth that they may have had, to have made the moves in those 15 or 20 years to allow them to make those kinds of moves? it's just not a realistic expectation for one person or one couple or one household effectively to be able to have everything that they see around them when all the things they see around them didn't come the exact same way to those people.
It's so true. And I think it's also really important here. And I know you and I talk about this a lot because of who and what we consume and who we follow. I love that Ed Mylett has multiple homes and has a private jet. And
Yes, please.
that's motivating for me. That is motivating as hell for me. But I also know that that is not where we're at right now. We are not the same age. We have not had the same path of success or challenges, because with a lot of success and a lot of wealth also comes with bigger problems, more of them, more challenges. So that's something
smalls.
Yeah, there you go. But I think having an understanding of, what you're expecting for yourself, maybe as a result of your environment, what you're consuming in social media, but having a separation of like expectation and motivation, using sources that you follow and consume and finding it motivating. Again, like an Ed Mylett for a Matt and Allie, very motivating, but we also have that separation. And, those people that have had this successful path and have accumulated a lot of wealth are also very generous. And I love to hear people like Ed Mylett. Chris Harder's another favorite of ours. They talk so often about generosity. And that's number 5, is making charitable donations a natural default. Money, time, education is all great, but an investment into the world around you immediately and by default also helps you. And I'm so proud to say this, that I was raised this way, that I remember my parents every month and for sure annually, like they made a lot of donations to a lot of different causes. And when I moved from Winnipeg to Toronto in university, I would make like $25 donations to mental health, because that's what I lost my brother to. It meant a lot to me. Now we're in a different position where we're having, family funds that have been set up in memory of my dad and my brother. So those contributions are much larger and they're more generous. But again, we've also worked harder for longer. So I'm grateful that we can make more than a $25 donation.
It's hard sometimes for, in the world that we're in, and the money coming or going out almost as quickly as it's coming in. Everything's more expensive now than it ever has been. Groceries, vehicles, homes, property taxes on those homes. Everything goes up incrementally, and sometimes more than incrementally, for goodness sake. So the idea of adding on something where you don't get something tangibly back, like a donation, I know might not be high on a lot of people's priorities, but where you have to shift your mindset is recognizing that what you are paying into, what you are donating into, is into the community, the world, directly around you. So how are you not looking at it as nothing other than you effectively putting money into what supports you specifically? And knowing it or looking at it that way hopefully allows you to see it slightly differently.
I think it also goes back to what we were saying earlier about the good energy surrounding money, that if you've worked hard for the money that you earn, we all do, but you work hard to earn this money, but then you immediately turn around and donate that money to a cause, most likely that is special to you, or causes. But now you're creating this really beautiful energy surrounding this money that you've worked hard for, but you're putting it back into the universe and sending it somewhere in an area of need. And in turn, you are going to feel good. Maybe you aren't getting something like Matt said. Maybe it's no like Girl Guide cookies or tickets for something. Maybe it is just a donation, but you're going to feel that energetically, and how you can apply that moving forward and how you can inspire others around you.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Not to move on off from that too quickly, but I think the idea of giving should be nothing other than checking off something intrinsically. And when that makes you happy, you by default present yourself in a more positive light to the world around you, which then trickles down to who they present themselves to. Your power of positivity becomes felt tenfold, 100-fold. You don't know who it is you're affecting, quite frankly.
It's like the boomerang effect of positivity.
It is the boomerang effect of positivity.
We love that. We love the boomerang effects.
There you go. All right, number 6. Man, this one really speaks to me. Learn and understand the strength and advantage of good communicating.
Boom.
Yeah.
I think I was supposed to drop the mic.
Dramatic pause. Put yourself in positions of influence and leadership as often as you can so that you're forced to learn how to speak to different types of people. And in doing that, you learn what you're looking for. Not only that, when you do these things, you develop a muscle that becomes 100% utilized in every walk of your life, whether it be starting off your career and just sitting in a super daunting, intimidating job interview and being able to carry yourself properly, conduct yourself properly. Those are the kinds of things that impress other people who have walked that walk before, who have the authority to determine what your next steps are going to be. Job interviews, obviously, very important. Sales pitches. And that's not just sales in the way of products that you might be carrying that is part of your livelihood, part of your career. I mean, sales and just straight up maybe negotiating with your partner and trying to have them see something the way you see it as a means of getting from point A to point B. Friends of ours with kids. How important is that to be able to clearly communicate with their young children that are barely understanding and growing with their own form of communication at 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years old? You're going to have to change how you communicate with these people as they grow. And so the power of knowing how to do so, that's a muscle that only comes with repetition and putting yourself in the kinds of positions that hone that skill for you. Not everybody is born an amazing communicator, a kind of a somebody who's able to control a room. Those are almost always skill sets that are learned and that are earned. And by me saying earn, I mean it's because it probably made these people probably fell flat on their face a few times. They probably forgot what they wanted to say. They felt the sweats and they blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
But over time and consistency, they find the way in which not just how to command a room, but how to speak to anybody individually within that room. And I'm not just saying like be a chameleon. You want to be your authentic self, of course, and have that come through in every conversation you have along the way, because that's what resonates with people is that realness that comes through, right? A salesperson will always know when they're trying to be sold, and it's an immediate off switch as soon as that comes across. So you always want to be as authentic as you can. But the more you talk to people, the more you're able to talk to people. And it sounds so bloody simple, but it's the truth. But until you put yourself out there, you don't ever get that muscle to be worked on. I know we've had conversations, and we're in that world now where, and have been for years, where we will see dozens and dozens of people every single day and have discussions with 90% of them, or at the very least a 2-sentence back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
With 90% of them. And there are a handful of people that I can think of, and we're not talking children. I'm talking like early 20-something-year-olds who don't know how to make eye contact.
Oh, yeah.
That don't have follow-up questions.
It's a bit of a
give
cringe.
You one-word answers in response to whatever question you have for them. Or this is my favorite. When you ask them a question and they're with their mom or dad, and instead of them answering you, they look to mom and dad as to say, are you going to answer that? And I could not imagine for the life of me at 19, 20, 21 years old, standing with either one of my parents, not being able to communicate A, clearly, or B, directly to the person who just asked me a question.
I'd probably get kicked in the shin.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be the lightest
Smart
thing.
enough.
That'd be the lightest thing that I might get, for sure.
Well, I thought you were going to actually even say this, that even over the course of the last few years, that our gym, Benchmark Fitness, is very social. It's community first. And we have had people join the community that have actually referenced that they work at home, and they've worked at home for the last few years, so they don't really interact with people. And it is interesting to see and experience what that is for them. Or you might have some people that have just been in like knee deep into motherhood. And so their conversations with an infant and toddlers are very different if they're not working because they're a full-time mom, which is a very hard job, but they're not having those adult conversations. And it's a real thing that we've not experienced, but we've had people share that with us. And so I think that this kind of all plays into the importance of communication. And we've felt this a lot in conversations that I think we even had when we were in Arizona earlier this year for our retreat, that feeling connection and community is one of our basic human needs. Like we crave that. We need that.
It's number 3 on the list.
Yeah.
It's food, shelter, human connection. In that order is what we need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, oh, it would be nice if. Like, we friggin' need it. So the ability to learn how to maximize it is what we're talking about here. The idea of communication and strong communicators is what I think we're trying to get across. And if that's not a skill set that you have now, it doesn't mean that it can't be learned. You read the books, you watch the leaders in any capacity, whether they're people that are public speakers, whether they're politicians. They're not all great, obviously, but what they do is have the ability to speak.
Even podcasting, I've actually heard just recently,
Absolutely,
I heard
podcasting.
Lori Harder talk about this, that she loves podcasting. I think even with her solo episodes, like she does incredible interviews, but for solo episodes, that is a form of honing her skill as a speaker, as a keynote speaker. And that is certainly what even Instagram lives, Facebook lives, a lot of these amazing keynote speakers started with really scrappy Facebook lives with like their grandma watching. And so to your point, it's absolutely something that you can learn and you can refine and refine again and refine again.
That's right.
That goes into number 7. Self-development. I was so excited to be like, I want to say that one because I am so passionate about this topic. I have been for years. And not only am I passionate about it, but it's also something that I have had to direct success as a result of. And that is like reading, getting in the room, taking calculated chances, dream big, make a plan, and take action. Those are like, that's a 3-part series, you guys. Those big dreams, talk about them, write them down, share them with people that you love and care about that also love and care about you. Make a plan. How are you going to roll out that dream? And you have to take action. Dreams are amazing, but they're nothing, without a plan and taking it into action. So that's where you want to really invest your time and your energy into, people that are walking the walk and talking the talk. Who are those podcasters and those keynote speakers that you can listen to? Where are they doing live events that you can get a ticket to and get in the room? Big rooms, like a Brendon Bouchard Growth Day, big room that's like 2,000 people. That's an entirely different energy than a mastermind group of 12 to 14 people. Both have incredible value and impact. I love having a variety personally of all of that in my annual plan when it comes to personal development and how we're spending our time and money, but also just really focusing on things that are very easy and within reach, like books and podcasts, YouTube videos, all of that. But also having that plan where you are talking about those dreams and your goals, how you're going to make those work, and what the action steps that you're going to take to bring it all together.
Yeah, I think you said absolutely majority of what was most important, but self-development is hard because it takes a recognition of what you need to work on for yourself. It isn't something that is typically obvious, number one, or maybe more accurately, it's typically not something that you want to admit you need to work on. So the idea of recognizing it and then the ability to jump on it is hard because it's like admitting that you need help and so that you're not as good as you want to be in some certain area. So the idea of signing off on self-development should be applauded. It should be celebrated. Not enough people do it. We'd all be better if people did. But once you do, it becomes a friggin' drug.
Addictive.
You see the results. You feel the results. You recognize how the world responds to you because of the work that you've put in. And all of that becomes very addictive. And then you push the envelope a little bit more. Maybe, the first time you got into the room of 2,000 people,
You sat in the back.
You sat in the back.
Yeah.
Exactly. You sat in the back because no one knew you and you didn't want anybody to know you. You just did this so you can check a box and you're flying home tomorrow and you'll never see these 1,999 people again. But 6 months later, 8 months later, why don't you sit in the middle of the room? And then maybe 6 months after that, go crazy and get in the front row.
I'm such a front row keener.
Well, now you are. I know you've always been that way.
I've always been that way.
You've actually always been that way.
I actually wanted to add something here.
Sure.
About self-development. And I think that there is a really beautiful place here for self-development in terms of exercise and how we take care of ourselves.
Get it, girl.
Because
tell the people
that, and maybe I'm just feeling remarkably empowered after some of these conversations with my one-on-one training clients and how they're saying that they feel stronger. And then we'll have conversations of how that makes them feel in their business. And that gives me a whole new light as a personal trainer and as a gym owner.
I feel like you have like Kelly Clarkson in the background or something.
Oh yeah.
Just some
the Kelly Clarkson jams just
bangers.
dropping in hot.
Yeah.
But I think that is a really great addition when you look at your self-development and that mindset, how we are mentally, physically, and emotionally. And there are tools that we can access like, books and podcasts, again, that are easy, tangible, low investment, low ticket, that can help us with our sort of like mental and emotional health and mental and emotional fitness, let's call it. And then there's the physical fitness. And what kind of space are you going to get into to really like help level you up? That, you don't necessarily need to hire a trainer, because with that comes an investment, but maybe you do. And maybe that is an area that you want to invest some dollars and time and energy. But just even finding a gym community that is supporting you on your quest to be the best version of yourself and taking care of yourself physically as well as mentally and emotionally. And maybe you do have a one-on-one session with a trainer, but you carve out an extra 15, 20, 30 minutes to fuel your mind with a really great podcast. I don't know, like the Inspire and Move podcast, and do a nice incline walk on the treadmill. Just power down and, celebrate the workout that you just had, lifting some heavy weights, feeling strong, and then fueling your mind with something positive. And I actually sometimes post this on my Instagram, how it's like habit stacking, that, a workout for me is non-negotiable. But if I can also carve out, 15 to 20 extra minutes and stack one of my favorite podcasts on top of that, that's setting me up for a really great, high energy, successful day.
Got nothing to add on that.
Okay.
Crushed.
I was feeling really amped and excited about that addition.
This room is on fire.
Woo!
All right. And
Bring
finally, number
on.
8. This one has become especially important to me over the course of the last few years, I'd say. And that maybe comes with a couple of different things. Maturity. I'm 40, right? And so with that, once again in mind, this podcast is meant to reflect on the things that I wish we knew sooner. At 40 years old, I am by no means old. And in fact, when I think of a 40-year-old when I was 16 years old, I wouldn't have thought of who I am, at least right now at this stage in our life. 40-year-olds were basically grandparents to me when I was 16. And that's just not the case now. I look at my 40-year-old friends. I look at my 50-something-year-old friends, and they are younger than what I thought of a 30-year-old when I was 16. So my point is that at this stage, you have the ability to reflect back. And one of the most important things that I wish I knew earlier, I wish I did something to incorporate more of sooner, was making memories with the people that are closest to me. And we've experienced loss from a very close standpoint in the course of the last few years. And those are the kinds of things that really drive home why it is so important to take advantage of the time that you have when the people are around you and able to spend that time with you accordingly. And not to take this down a deep, dark road as our last point, but it's the memories that you're going to hold on to, or at least is what I hold on to as the most important part of the different parts of our lives, not the materialistic things. I remember having a goal of owning a certain car by the time I was 30 years old, which is a very materialistic thing in and of itself. I understand that. The car itself was materialistic. What I think of now when I look back 10 years ago and I had that car, the first day I picked up that car and I drove it to my parents' house to show my parents, because they knew this was my goal since I was 5 years old. And when I went to their house, I can still see the faces of, especially my dad, but my dad and my mom, I can see their faces when they opened the garage and they saw the car. And it had nothing to do with it being the kind of car that it was. It was the pride that they felt, the emotion that they felt. No different than the pride that I felt. A lot of hard work, don't get me wrong. Shit doesn't just happen, right? It never does, for the most part, at least. But it's the feelings that you remember from the memories that are made, not necessarily what you ate or the gift you gave or what you got as a gift per se. Those physical things are nice, but that's not what blazes in the core of your mind for the decades to come. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You won't ever regret a good conversation. You won't ever regret a proper celebration. The people who hold you in the highest esteem is because of how you make them feel specifically.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think to your point about the loss, and it's something that we've had this conversation with some close friends, and they talk about it in, their podcasts and their content, that when you go through tragic loss that's, too soon, they're really close to you, it's unexpected, it's emotional, and it absolutely changes the mindset in which you live in and take action in. And I think, even circling back to point number 7 about dreaming and making a plan and taking action, maybe that is like, we have a dream. I don't think I can say it out loud. We have a dream that
I don't know where this is going. This could be scary as hell.
we so look forward to the day where we surprise our family and we take them on a beautiful vacation that we have worked hard to save for and spend for them as a gift. But really, more so than the gift, it's the memories. We cannot wait to feel that sense of accomplishment, because that is going to be directly as a result of our hard work and not being afraid of hard work, going back to point number 1, but then being able to contribute that it's not charitable, but contribute that to people that we love and care about. And what we're looking to achieve from that is memories and happiness and joy and love.
Yeah, you're talking all about feelings, right? And those are the things that make you remember the most important parts of any large part of your life. When we all talk about, like, I am a Christmas nut. I friggin' love Christmas, everything about it. And for me, and for pretty much everybody else that I can think of that is on par with my Christmas craziness, what they love so much is the feeling of the togetherness. The people that are closest to you in the same room, celebrating, laughing, eating, drinking, and all the rest. None of us think about any of the Christmas gifts we ever got in the previous Christmases, however many dozens of them that we've all experienced. I can't think of any one Christmas gift that I got other than once. I got an NFL signed football for Christmas when I was 9 years old, and that was amazing. But that said, every other Christmas, I don't remember gifts, the actual gifts, right? It's just the way you're made to feel. It's the memory-making feelings that you're looking for.
And it's funny, as you're saying that, and I know we talked about this, I think, around the holidays, and we did an episode on it, and we had that conversation with a few friends and members of the Benchmark community, and we just had them stumped, where it was like, what'd you get for Christmas last year? And they've just looked at us like we had 6 heads. So it is a really powerful conversation, and we're recording this in April, so we're not in Christmas season yet, but could be some food for thought that maybe this Christmas, that we've talked about that with our family, they're just going to look a bit different. Like, our goals will be different, because we want to play off of the feelings and the memories,
the experiences.
Yeah. But what I wanted to say was, a couple of years ago, for my 36th birthday, it was my first birthday without my dad, and it was just a few months after my dad passed away. Matt surprised me with a puppy, and I think, and this just came to me as you were talking about how you're made to feel, that our puppy Riley, she's now a little over 2. Love her. She is a miniature Australian Shepherd. She was this cute little fluff ball. And I think probably anybody, any girl, any guy would love to receive a puppy for their birthday. But in that moment...
Well, most. Not
all. If you're listening to Inspire Me, you're probably a dog lover. But most people would be ecstatic to receive a puppy. But what I think about when I think back to that incredible surprise was how you made me feel.
There you go.
You made me feel so... Ooh, I'm very emotional. So loved and supported with this gift that came in a whole different time of my life and going through a challenging season. But I think that's why I love her so much, is because I know how she makes me feel.
Literally like a support dog.
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing.
Okay, Tybo on this.
I'll take the mic on this one.
Get emotional. Wasn't expecting that.
So I guess in a roundabout way, what we're saying is, the memories are always going to trump the things. And if you've got the ability to take, even if it's 5 minutes, and have a coffee with somebody just to let them know that you appreciate them, and have them hear your voice to say it versus assuming they know, those are the things that I wish I knew and incorporated sooner in my life, not just the last handful or 2 for it to be a reality consistently. I think we do a really good job at incorporating those things now, and have for the last few years. Really, I don't want to say going out of our way, because we truly do enjoy doing it, but I definitely think that it has become more of a priority for us to create memories on a consistent basis, not just whenever it's convenient now. But I wish I knew that more when I was in my 20s. And now that I think about that, in my 40s, I think the ability to share that with anybody and everybody, again, isn't something that just turns a light bulb on, and you guys are hearing this and thinking, well, shit, yeah, that's right, I should start making a memory or 2 with someone. Of course not. You know this already. But if any of this resonates and forces you to do one more thing that you wouldn't have otherwise done maybe as quickly as maybe you now will after hearing this, then mission accomplished.
That was beautiful, babe. And I think even just a little sidebar of that is how you can sprinkle more joy into your day. And that might not be, creating these drastic, grand memories, but just enjoying these moments and being able to sprinkle a little more joy, whether it be, adding a beautiful podcast with a dog walk, or maybe you're like silence with a dog walk and just enjoying the birds chirping, which is a beautiful sound. But having those little moments of joy in your day, in your week, and certainly as you create memories with the people that you love most.
That's it.
This was fire.
Yeah, there you
Feeling
go.
really good about this. I can't wait to listen to it on an incline walk. Looks like I'll be at the gym for 2 hours for my workout after
seriously.
this. But
so, little recap.
Yes.
Things we wish we knew sooner that I think would make a massive difference for anybody to incorporate now or moving forward. Number 1.
Work harder than your competition.
Number 2.
Be willing to take less than you'd like to have access to the people, networks, and knowledge you're looking for.
Number 3, have some understanding of money. Doesn't need to be in depth. You just need to know what it can do for you so it could set you up to do great things for you and to allow you to be generous with everybody else around you. Number 4, live below your means. It's pretty straightforward. Number 5,
make charitable donations a natural default.
Number 6, learn and understand the strength and advantage of clear communication.
Number 7, self-development. Read, listen to podcasts, get in the room.
And number 8, make memories with the people that are closest to you. You'll never regret that.
Love that.
That's it.
Thanks for bringing your A game today.
There you go.
I love and appreciate you.
Love and appreciate you.
And we love and appreciate all of you. And if you would be ever so inclined to give the Inspire and Move podcast a little 5-star rating, maybe a little review, maybe share it, tag us, share it with a friend that you love and care about. And until next time, just live your best life. And we are so grateful for you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took 30 seconds and shared this on social media, send it to a friend, or leave a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I am so grateful to have you part of mine.